Okay, so welcome and good afternoon my name is Taryn Little, for those of you who did not meet me the last time. I'm always very excited to share the Sfbt space with you. I'm very passionate about solution-focused brief therapy. I've seen it work in my own life. I've seen it work in my students' lives. I've seen it work in my clients' lives. So today we're going to do a bit of a refresher, but I also want to share with you one or two new insights that I've been able to glean from this approach since the last time that I saw you. Just trying to go to the next screen. Okay, so I woke up to this very unnerving breaking news last week, which says mental health is the biggest threat in 2021 by the South African Society of Psychiatrists. And I thought, never has there been a time that we are living in where the need for mental health professionals has been greater, where the need for solutions has been greater, where people are looking for hope, they are looking for solutions, they are looking for help. And so you have really chosen a profession where now is the time, now is the very critical time. So if you're sitting here today and you have registered for us for another year at Cornerstone, despite last year with all its challenges, and all of us, none of us were immune to what 2020 had to offer. All of us were in some way adversely affected. But I'm sitting here today and you're sitting here today. So I want to ask you, what is the one thing that you were able to tap into, either internally or externally, that has allowed you to get through 2020 and sit here today with all your mental capacities? Jessica, would you like to go? You say share one thing, not too long.
Just looking at your your slide, yeah, I definitely think nature, getting out into nature. Chocolate helped me last year a lot. and
Yes.
and the exercise thing.
I think I've really a deep appreciation for nature. I was doing research the other day, and did you know that the waves, the sound of waves, alters our brain waves, so it increases mental and physical well-being. Chocolate did not help me. Anybody else?
Listen. I think the fact that I was still busy with all my studies and having assignments that need to be delivered on set dates, and then research, I think that, you know, keeping myself busy helps me a lot.
Okay, so you're referring to what Martin Seligman says, that you had a purpose, and that was you had meaning. There was a reason to continue.
Yes.
Yeah, yes, wonderful. And for many didn't make it into this year because they couldn't find that reason to continue. And that's what Sfbt brings. It brings that sense of hope, that sense of optimism, that this is not the end of your story. Let's take another two people.
Hi, this is Nadira. I'm sorry, I just joined. Am I just answering the question, what helped me cope through 2020?
Yes.
I think for me, it was my husband, my mom, and my children. The same things that drove me crazy are the same things that got me through
yes.
2020.
Oh my.
I think if it wasn't for them, I don't know. I would not have coped. So
beautiful.
yes, for me it was them.
Thank you for sharing. You gave me goosebumps when you said that, because we cannot and we could not thrive or get through 2020 without those relationships that are meaningful to us. And I think those things that irritated us about our loved ones really became very petty. You know, I learned to let go of the small things and understand what was really important. So again, you cannot thrive. You cannot thrive in isolation. We need those relationships to help us live this life meaningfully. One more person. Netflix. One more share.
For me, it was journaling. I'm a bit of an introvert, so I love writing and reading, and I think journaling really helped me just put words to my emotions and the things I
Right.
was feeling, and kind of just reflecting on the year, and that really helped my journey as well.
So that was a very cathartic place for you to be able to release those emotions.
Yeah, absolutely, and just kind of making meaning of what I'm feeling.
Right.
Yeah.
And there is such power, there is such healing in the writing. For me, I started gratitude journaling during lockdown, and I've perpetuated that pattern because of what it's given me. It allowed me to stay present, and it allowed me to stay focused on what I had as opposed to looking at what was wrong with the situation. Thank you so much. So when we look at how we cope through 2020, what SFBT assumption does this bring to mind? There are 3 SFBT assumptions, putting you on the spot now. When you think of coping, you obviously did something that worked in 2020. What does the SFBT belief say about that thing that works?
Says you must do more of it if you can, Taryn.
Bravo, bravo. It says, once I know what works, do more of it. So simplistic, yet we forget. Can you remember the other 2 assumptions? There were 3.
I'm not exactly sure if this is one of them, but what came to mind is that the client already has all the solutions. They already actually know what helps them, or they know the solutions that they could use to succeed.
Yes, that's not an assumption, but that is absolutely critical in your belief that the client already comes in with those resources and those strengths and those abilities. We then help them discover that through the questioning ability. So yes, but not an assumption. So it says, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If you know what's working, which is why I've perpetuated gratitude, because it's worked. Once I know what works, I do more of it. So now I do not start my day without gratitude. If it's not working, do something different. Chocolate makes me depressed. It leaves me tired, so I don't do chocolate. But that might work for somebody else. I should have asked you the question before I put up the slide. So the other thing that this idea of coping does is it links directly to one of the SFBT skills, which is a coping question.
You're breaking up a lot, Taryn.
I'm so sorry. And now, what's it like now? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So this idea of coping links to the coping question, which is a very powerful tool and which shines the spotlight on what is your strengths and your skills.
No, we can't hear anything now.
I am so sorry. We've been having network problems in this area. I'm the only one home. I am wondering if I should not record this lecture and upload it for you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Now we can, yes.
Yeah. If it happens one more time, then what I'm going to have to do, in the spirit of not frustrating everyone, is actually record this lecture. Is that going to be okay? Record it and upload it onto YouTube? Can we agree on that?
Yes, that's fine. Would it be okay then if we can email you questions that we might have? Because it's just nice to have a little bit of feedback.
No, absolutely, yes. So the coping question is saying, after everything that we've all been through in 2020, how have you managed to cope? And I know that you're now in a year where there's a great deal of practicality that needs to happen for you. So I have found the best way for me to practice these skills is to keep relating it to my own life. so that it becomes easier to relate it to a client's life. What is it that you are drawing on yourself to cope? What are other people saying about you? What are those skills and those strengths that you are calling upon in order to cope? And then what does that say about you? This is an opportunity to compliment your client. Wow, you've really, really been resilient after everything that you've told me, all those challenges that you've been through. You've really been able to persevere despite. So the coping question is a very, very, very powerful tool. What else can you remember about last year and our time together? Hello?
Scaling questions?
Yes, okay. What else? What do you remember about the scaling question? Just trying to discern where you at.
You can either say, if they say out of 10 they're a 3, you can either say to them what kept you from becoming a 2 or a 1, and you can also ask them what would 4 look like. If you're a 3 now, what would 4 or 5 look like? How would you know if you reached those points?
Yes. So what's the and always compliment that 3, because that 3 is not, it's not a small number. That 3 identifies progress. So now what is the smallest step that you can take today or between now and the next time that I see you to perhaps get onto a 3.5 or a 4? Yes. What else? Can anybody else remember from Sfbt? Okay. So just in a nutshell, it is future focused. So we're looking at the tomorrow. What's happening tomorrow? Not what happened yesterday. It is goal directed. Okay, so the client comes to you and the client has very specific goals about what they want their tomorrow to look like. And then through exception finding questions, we also want to know, well, are there times when your preferred future is already happening? So that there's an identification of how I'm coping now and what are my strengths. And then scaling questions is really a way to measure your client's progress. Where am I now? And how am I going to get to that next step? How am I progressing or how am I regressing? Are you still with me? Can you still hear me?
Yes, we can. Yeah.
Okay. So remember, irrespective of what therapeutic approach you're sitting in, be it Sfbt, psychodynamic, CBT, we cannot throw away our basic counseling skills. So we cannot go into Sfbt without our toolbox of echoing our clients' words, which builds trust and helps our clients see that we are listening to them. Often our clients use words that mean something to them, but we're not sure what that means. So your client may say, oh, my life is a mess. It would be your job then to find out what does your client mean by it's a mess. You have a perception and understanding, but you need to clarify what mess means to them, what that looks like. Listening beyond the words, very powerful. We're not only listening to the words that I say, but I'm looking at your facial expression, your body language. If you say that you're okay, yet there's a tear streaming down your eye. Very important that we maintain, as Carl Rogers says, non-judgment, authenticity, empathy, and not sympathy. Our responses to our clients can make or break. Make or break. There's so much death right now, and I often go through social media to see the responses. And often the responses are one of judgment. Often it's one of sympathy as opposed to empathy. And I try not to judge because being a helper is something that requires skill, and not everyone has had that opportunity. So be careful when you say, well, it's your loved one is gone for a year, you should not be grieving as much. Be careful when you say, oh, at least you had that much time with them. Reflecting, not only reflecting words through paraphrasing and stuff, but reflecting feeling. Remember, feeling is where you want to go first. I can see that this is really, really hard for you. That non-verbal body language, I think, is the most powerful tool in communication. The use of silence. As new health practitioners, my big thing was, oh my word, what if I don't know what to say next? I'm going to look stupid, I'm going to look inadequate. And silence has nothing to do with us and our ability as skilled helpers. Silence is a tool that needs to be used with great skill, and it needs to be honored, because often for your client, silence means I'm trying to comprehend my thoughts so that I can come up with a meaningful answer. Because remember, these are questions, and these are questions which are asking your client to become deeply introspective and deeply reflective. And so often they need silence. So be okay with the silence. So Sfbt in a nutshell is shifting the focus. The spotlight is shifting from problems to solutions. Because when we are looking at problems, we're looking at this is what's wrong with you. This is why you failed. Why did you fail? As opposed to Sfbt, which says, wow, you're sitting here today. That tells me something about you, that you have great resilience. So it moves to competencies and strengths. And I love what Martin Seligman says. He says we need to move from a place of learned helplessness where it's all doom and gloom. Because of COVID-19, my story ends. I have no future. I have watched how many people have, during this pandemic, been able to soar to greater heights than they would have had it not been for the pandemic, because they chose a story of optimism. So words are very, very powerful. Thoughts are very, very powerful. We think what we feel we become. But does Sfbt focus exclusively on the past? Think about that for a moment. Do you think that it focuses exclusively on the past?
No, it seems like it focuses mostly on the present and future.
Okay. So you'd say there's no room for the past based on what you're hearing. So what I'm really excited about is that these therapeutic approaches are not stagnant. You do not have to agree with everything. If you are able to amend something, to reform it, to bring out a new therapeutic idea while still working within ethical boundaries, because people are evolving, times are evolving, and so we need to, as we practice these therapies, say, but is this approach still working in the way it was intended? And so what Elliot Connie is saying, he's saying, while Sfbt does it, there is a space for the past, but it doesn't focus on the past in a way that a psychodynamic approach might do. So we're not doing a psychological assessment. We don't want your biography. We don't want your medical history. But it's saying that there is a place for the past through what's called the reverse miracle question. So let's look at what the original miracle question says. It's all about the tomorrow. What's the first thing you notice that will be different? What would be the first sign that a miracle is happening? What will you be doing? How will others notice that something different has happened? What's the smallest step that you can take now between the next time that I see you towards your preferred future? I prefer the term preferred future than miracle, because the word miracle can be very overwhelming. And not everyone can relate to this word miracle. Often miracle is very faith-based in a very particular faith. So I prefer preferred future. So I want to introduce you today. Oh, there goes my internet. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can
I
still
want
hear you.
to introduce
Karen,
you to...
maybe turn your video off.
Okay, that'll be an idea. Thank you. Stop video. Okay. So I want to introduce you today to what's called the reverse miracle question, where we're saying there is value in noticing the past. So the original miracle question will say, suppose you woke up tomorrow and you were happy. What would you notice? The reverse miracle question is saying, when happiness showed up in the past, how did you notice it? How did you notice that happiness was there? What difference did that happiness make in your life then? How did people around you notice that you were happy? So this, yes.
Bianca's placed a question in the chat, and it's kind of regarding this as well.
Okay, thank you for letting me know. Where is the chat? Okay. Can you to the miracle, my connection? Okay. Bianca, what will you do if you ask me how you cope on this one? Like, I don't know. Okay, that's a good question. What would you do if you asked a client how you have coped so far and they respond by saying something like, I don't know, if they can't pinpoint the skills? Okay, so that would move us, Bianca, into exception finding questions, because there is a time in someone's life. So that's why it's so important to first understand what is this person's preferred outcome. There is a time in someone's life when they have experienced that things were better than they were today. So you just have to keep asking. So if you say that things were really bad, can you remember a time when things were good? Or were a little bit better? What were you doing then? And so when a client says, I don't know, that can be very intimidating for you. If you say, and this comes to the question right now, but what if your client tells you they have never been happy in the past? This kind of links to what you've just asked. Well, there's no such thing. If their desired outcome is being happy, then that means they've already experienced some form of happiness before in order to know what unhappiness is. Does that make sense? I need to hear you now. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
So this reverse miracle question really made me thought of marital issues, you know, where the honeymoon period's over and now we're 7 years married and we're not feeling, or we're not experiencing doing the same things we did 7 years ago. I'm not happy in my marriage. I never was. No, that's not true. That's not true. There was a time. Can you remember what it was like on your first date? Or that first year of marriage? Even in the most abusive of relationships, there is that glimmer of hope there somewhere. There is that light that we need to continue with great empathy probing for. So the miracle question is, how would you notice it kind of question. So I want to look back at the past, not to go to my childhood, but I want to look back at my past and go, oh yeah, I remember that's when I was feeling energetic, and when I was feeling energetic, I wasn't eating lots of chocolate. Oh yes, I remember my communication with my husband was so much better. You know what I was doing then? When he arrived home from work, I didn't immediately start telling him about my troubles. I offered him something to drink. So there is value in looking back at the past, even Bianca now, to say, well, how did I cope in the past? There must be something. Does this reverse miracle question excite you? It does me.
Sharon?
Yes.
When I first saw the statement reverse miracle question,
Yeah.
I thought that it was something different. That you could say, you could ask them to imagine what, say they said something happened in the past that wasn't good or didn't turn out well. You could ask them, what would have been your preferred way for it to turn out?
So,
but that's not really anchoring them in anything that happened.
Yeah, that's so. Just say that again. So I'm just trying to see how we could construct that. If you'd say so, if
you could mold that situation again or have that time again, what would have been the best way for it could have turned out for you, or how would it have played out?
Yeah. I hear what you're saying, and I also hear the danger of that, in that it might set up a very new expectation and something that has not been done before. So that's why it's so important just to look back at the past, because when we look back, there's something of value there that was done before that can now be used in the present to create that future. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Right. I foresee that more in maybe kind of a CBT setting. But interesting, I'd like to ponder that some more. So, Bianca, again, exception finding questions is really valuable in identifying to your client that, hey, the problem has not happened 100% of the time. When your clients come in, it's doom and gloom. I watched a Dr. Full show the other day, parents and an adolescent, and the parent said, she has destroyed her life. That is catastrophizing. Is her life really destroyed? No, she's just dating someone that you don't like. So we want to show our clients that there are times that life is a little bit better. There are times where you are arguing less with your spouse. What is happening there? So then we need to again go back to what's happening when it's better. And once we know what's happening, we can start doing that and then do more of that. So it's really the exception question is showing your client that parts of my preferred future is happening already. I move to ask someone, what part of your preferred future can you see already happening as you sit here right now in this lecture? Which part of it?
Taryn, are you asking us for our own lives?
Yes, just one answer. Yes.
So I think for myself, I can start imagining that I'd be able to use some of these tools and these questions in a session with a client. So that's part of my preferred future, to feel equipped with these tools.
Okay, great.
And that's happening already right now.
It's happening already right now, yes. So I want to link exceptions to that reverse miracle question. So what you want to ask your client is, which part of the outcome has already happened in the past? So is that Jackie? I know your voice, yes?
Yes, it is Jackie.
So you want to be skilled. You want to be skilled as an Sfbt therapist. But you're feeling overwhelmed right now. But you know that you've already practiced this before, and you know that there's been a positive outcome where someone has said, you know, Jackie, oh wow, my goals are clearer right now. I have more hope. So that has already happened for you in the past. Goosebumps. So you say that it was good then. What was happening then that is not happening now? Well, maybe I didn't go over my Sfbt skills before I went into a session. What part did you play in making it? Elliot Connie says we cannot become adept in these skills if we do not practice. I'm still not good in all of the skills of every approach. How did you do that? And it allows your client to realize that some parts of the preferred income, why do I keep saying income? Is that a Freudian slip, eh? Income's on my mind. Of the preferred outcome, I have to look at that, were already experienced in the past. You look at people who are going to rush down the aisle to divorce. Well, perhaps let's work on that and look at what were we doing right back then. Can we perhaps work on this and do more of it? And it encourages them to go back and examine really minute details. This comes across as a simplistic approach, but it's really not. There's a lot of digging and delving through these questions so that we can get to a new picture of hope and possibility. So in which therapeutic context do you think this skill could work really well? I think I've already said it. You know, we can work with adolescents, we can
marriage counseling.
Yes, that's what came to mind when I was preparing this is couples counseling. Because often the complaint is, the issue is, oh, but it's not happening like it was then. Oh, why don't you open the car door for me anymore? Such a simple thing. Well, what if you started opening the car door again? Okay, we have 60 seconds.
What about student counseling?
Absolutely. Elaborate.
No, well, just a student going through a hard time, and then they could be reminded that they've gotten this far, and you know, how did they get to where they are? And
yes.
But Taryn, just sorry, okay, it's probably unrelated, but it just feels like you're asking them to do what was done in the past, but maybe the past, maybe they need to develop beyond the past.
A new skill. A new skill.
Doing, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And I think this is not an isolated skill. You've got to tie it in with the other skills, the other future, you know, what can I do to get to, it's not just about using the reverse miracle question. I think that's the beauty of that you can link it with the original miracle question too.
Okay.
You know, and I think that takes a lot of skill in discerning where you at in the session. Where are you at, particularly because your client leads you. If we get kicked out, can we please come back in on the second link that Geraldine sent you? Did you get that?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, it says less than a minute. Maybe we should just get kicked out. Maybe we should leave and then just re-enter. That'll be a good idea so that we're not overwhelmed.